Hello, and welcome to another episode of Sustainable Sustainability, where we talk to steward leaders who are doing well by doing good in business and addressing existential challenges like climate change, socioeconomic inequality, and cyber vulnerability. My name is Rajeev, and today my guest is a dear friend, Jeremy Schwartz, who's been CEO of Pandora, CEO of L'Oreal UK, CEO of The Body Shop, of Coca-Cola Europe. Welcome, Jeremy, to the show.
Nice to see you again.
And what are you up to these days?
Well, I think the primary focus is through Kantar, where we have taken a concept of a sustainability transformation practice and also one including inclusion diversity, taking it from zero to now several $100 million as a worldwide practice within Kantar. Kantar is the world's largest consumer tracking company. And, our mission is, or our purpose, which is actually what I believe, is to help companies, corporations worldwide accelerate their delivery of sustainable solutions that impact and change consumer behavior.
Okay, well, who better than you to do that? Coming back to your time in The Body Shop, storied company of its time, sadly not in a great place right now, but, can't ignore the great history. Anita Roddick back in the 70s said, business shapes the world. It is capable of changing society in almost any way you can imagine. What did she mean by that? And you worked with her for a bit, right?
Well, actually, I sadly missed working with her because she died of, unfortunately, not a nice story there. But all her team were very much close and very much part of the legacy. And she really was a visionary. And it's funny, I'm just rereading some of her work and she's a visionary. So her view was that we have the power in business to go further than simply making money and selling products, which is our primary purpose, to shape society and societal challenges through and while making money in business. Actually, I would even expand her thought now to say that the climate challenge is only going to be solved by business, because though we are seeing politicians now bring more regulation, critically required, they are still slow, they're still nervous, they're still hedging their bets, they're still changing their minds. And in the end, it will be innovation from companies that delivers the changes that are required. So I would say now more than ever, companies can change the fortune of the world.
And long before you came to The Body Shop, she was already on a sustainability journey, although social sustainability, in her case, more than environmental, right? Or was it both?
No, it was definitely both. And
what was she doing? And
she believed from the outset, and we're talking about 40 years ago.
That's fine.
That yes, brands and businesses have a social impact, but she absolutely was championing environmental causes. Not least, for example, that she was sourcing ingredients directly from farmers and was wanting to ensure that they protected the land that they were growing in, that they protected the biodiversity in that place. So at that stage, that was the concerns. Remember, she invented the concept of refills.
Right.
So not having plastic, not using packaging and throwing long before anybody else.
Yeah.
And actually, The Body Shop walked away from it and has then recently come back to it. But yes, so there's one example.
And then when you took over as CEO, you also followed in those footsteps and led with a purposeless strategy. And you had a tagline, enrich, not exploit. Yeah. What was the situation that you found the company in when you took over? And what was enrich, not exploit all about? So
what I felt was that the company had become fragmented in the good that it was doing. It had multiple initiatives, multiple campaigns, multiple charitable giving to all sorts of different events, from helping save the whales, which was good, to help minorities, et cetera, et cetera. And through this fragmentation, the company had lost competitive advantage and clarity. My sense was that in this world of overwhelming noise, the most important thing is sharpness and clarity if you're going to cut through. So I went on a journey with the team to restate a purpose that was relevant for today, but had sharpness and clarity, and which could mobilize future activity. To be honest, actually, what happened, because writing purposes is one of the key things I do with companies now, And it's a journey to write a great purpose, because a purpose has to be simple and memorable, inspiring, relevant, and clear.
Tell people what you want to
do.
Yeah.
But in a way that isn't what I call writing on a wall. It's corporate blah, blah, that is some long essay. It's got to be part of colloquial language.
Right.
So that people actually use it as a tool to lead and bring steward leadership, and it isn't just a piece of management blah, blah, as I call it. So we tried to write it, as corporations do, in a meeting room. And what I discovered is you can't write poetry, or you can't write great songs in an office. That's not where great songs are written, because purpose is like a great song. So we went to the Amazon just to be immersed in the problems and in the situation. And it was on the riverbanks on the Amazon. We sat with the computer on a desk, and the words enrich, not exploit came out as our purpose, because we were here to, what the word enrich means, to make things better, but never at the expense of something, never exploiting.
Is there something you saw in the forest that
Yes, well, yes. Let me tell you the story very quickly, because it was truly important. It's important for these times. We, after a 5-hour journey up the Amazon, we came to some local indigenous people who walked us through the dense Amazon. They said, this is not Amazon. 10 years ago, we completely cut down with our other tribes and sold all the wood. We cut so much down that, in fact, we ended up at another tributary, which wasn't our land. We'd actually used up everything, and we realized there was no more income for us. They said we chased the other tribes off, burnt their boats, and then decided to leave the forest to regrow. And after 10 years, we now reap the benefits from the forest, but leaving it. And this forest is completely non-original, but completely original. So it was like, Christ, they'd exploited it.
Aha, okay.
But actually now what they need to do is take benefit from it without exploiting.
And then how did that pan out at Body Shop?
Yeah. So the idea, a great purpose should be a platform and a springboard to innovation. It needs always to have a verb, and it needs to have a noun in some ways. So to enrich, not exploit, we then ask ourselves, well, how can we enrich the planet, or how can we enrich consumers? So what can we enrich consumers, the planet, and people? And then we created 15 commitments back in 2015. So, for example, one of them that's very relevant to this area was that we wanted to protect 75 million square meters of forest under a concept I invented called biobridges, which was to connect territories of land with another tropical forest or tropical land so that animals and people could communicate between these. Our franchisee, Mina, in Malaysia, found that there's a microscopic piece of land which the tigers of Malaysia have to go through to go from one forest to another, and the various poachers were coming from other countries and killing them all. And therefore we said, well, if we could enrich, not exploit, by protecting these tigers, we actually got the government to lend us paratroopers. And I was just with Mina yesterday, and she told me that the tiger population is growing dramatically because we've stopped the poachers. And we've been able to enrich that and not exploit through an action we've taken.
So all this sounds very interesting that, and the fact that everybody's talking about sustainability these days, these kinds of stories are nice to hear. But you were there to drive profitability, to drive growth. How did these 15 commitments towards the environment and society gel with your idea of with your main day job of driving growth and profitability?
Yeah, totally. And they have to be integrated. Otherwise, not every single one. You can do something for the sake of humanity without it being profitable, but that can't be the majority.
Because without profit, there's no...
There's no profit, there's no generosity.
Sustainability
well,
will not be sustainable.
Or generosity.
Yeah.
So let me give you an example of how these ladders... In fact, the tiger story, the ladder's completely to sales. I won't go too long, but we then said, well, why don't we make the tiger a icon for a Christmas campaign, which was when we sold most products. So we actually made the Christmas campaign around the jungle and animals and the tiger. It was our biggest selling Christmas campaign we'd ever had, because we then had an idea to inspire the consumer, an idea where we were then giving back to this land. So it became a virtual story. And where I see so much going wrong in the sustainability discussion at the moment is that we are overly correctly absorbing energy in compliance and regulatory compliance. That's where the energy of all corporations are, because we're imposing that on them. But that does not generate incremental benefit. And therefore, the big message I have is turn sustainability into a source of competitive advantage. That is the opportunity now. And then you might say, yeah, but how do you do that? Well, the way you do it is to say, all companies are in the game of marketing themselves to a customer. Every company to do that has to bring benefits. Now, in many areas, we've sort of run out of benefits in a way. We've exhausted some benefits. And
A soap is a soap is a soap.
A soap is a soap is a soap. Or we can say it cleans and cleans and cleans.
Yeah.
And, to repeat that message is not bad because we know that
Yes.
these things are timeless. But if you could then say, not only do you clean, we got something else, you can cut through the noise and potentially create that differentiator that can give you a competitive advantage and creates interest. So my message is, it's all about marketing stupid. I'm going to repeat that because remember, that was the line used for Clinton. It's all about the economy stupid. Sustainability, if we're going to make it work and be valuable to companies, it's all about marketing stupid.
But it has to be genuine.
It has to be genuine, without a doubt. I'm not saying marketing. Please do not mix the word marketing and lack of authenticity.
Right.
And by the way, I have a line which is called the yes but line. So when I speak to big audiences and so on, I will talk about Tesla. Somebody will always ask a question, say, yes, but the trouble is about the lithium mines, or yes, but the rubber on the tire because they're heavy cars. And it's like, okay, if we said yes, but to every non-sustainable idea as to why that is not perfect, we probably wouldn't do anything. And we therefore got to go with the flow. We've got to assume positive intent and not try and undermine every idea that's moving in a direction that's positive. It may not be 100% positive, but let's not kill things because they're not perfect. We're trying to move forward.
Yeah, because, when you talk about sustainability examples in the corporate world, well, one person's windmill is another person's bird killer.
Yeah.
And so if you say that this company is doing this very good, but there is another part of the company that's doing that.
Exactly.
Agreed, granted, right? We are all moving forward and learning, but at least they're doing something in one pocket. And let's learn from that and appreciate that. And that's, so I love your yes, but example because people are very quick on the yes, but.
Yeah.
Hey, but why can't we learn from one pocket of the organization?
Correct.
We have an initiative where it's called SL25, Steward Leadership 25, where we ask companies if there is any pocket in which you have a project that is profitably solving an environmental or social problem, tell us about it and we'll recognize it for you.
Yeah.
And then the 25 best we publish. It's okay if the rest of the company is not doing it, and that's the point that you're making.
I totally agree.
Great.
And I'm hunting down, one of the most exciting initiatives I've discovered is there's a brand called Flora Margarine. And it's taken them 4 years, but they've now going to turn the 2 billion plastic pots into they've actually launched in Austria, a card sustainable pack. It's taken them 4 years to develop, and it's competitively priced. Now, I just want to champion what they've done because we need these icons of success to have the belief that it's possible and that a company that big, it was a spin-off from Unilever, it's private equity driven, so they're not going to be not critical of something not having a business case. So we need these examples and to celebrate them and not break them to pieces.
Exactly. So again, staying with Body Shop for a minute, I want to talk about your other leadership positions in a bit. But so overall, you continued with the legacy. And you introduced Enrich, Not Exploit. You came up with those 15 commitments. You came up with tangible business goals to achieve, not forgetting profitability for a minute. And you said the key word was marketing, that if you're doing something, then talk about it, right? So overall, would you say you succeeded at doing well by doing good during your tenure at Body Shop?
We had a balance sheet where we had a number of significant successes. So let me give you 3. And we had, unfortunately, an equivalent number of countering failures, which created a net effect of an okay situation, by no means one of my best successes that I've had in other places. So this is not an excuse. It is a cold-hearted audit. So the successes were, for example, we took Indonesia from the 15th global market to the 5th, which I was incredibly proud of because, a market like Indonesia or Malaysia or Singapore, to rank that on a worldwide level to be the 5th most successful market.
How did that happen?
And that happened because the fantastic, again, franchisees there, plus an insight I had when we went walkabout. What is so obvious, of course, is that price is one of the most important levers in business. And one of the most important things in retail is to have transactions. You need people walking into the shop. And transactions are driven in part by a perception of value for money. And it was not visible enough, our value for money. And Body Shop is relatively expensive. And therefore we said, well, let's get all the small packs we can find, things that are single use or multi-single use, and make them incredibly visible so that people in countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore, and just young people worldwide can easily transact because there's no barrier to purchase through price. That worldwide drove transactions, but in particular in Indonesia was incredibly successful to improve the perception of value for money. Then, in the UK, we grew fantastically as well, which is our mother market, 16% market share. We grew the e-com, we grew profitability. The trouble was we had two little stories. The first one was the decision of the Chinese to jump on the corruption question and the impact on Hong Kong. Hong Kong was an incredibly important market for us. And as with many, many, many brands, and that continues, the sales dropped dramatically and it had a dramatic impact on our global position. And then Saudi, and not many people know this, back in about 2016 went into recession. And not many people might imagine, but Saudi was also an incredibly important market. So with all the positives, we had two or three of these structural economic anchors, which sadly spoiled the overall picture.
You said you're proud of many things that you did at Body Shop and continued with the legacy, but it was not your best example. So of all your CEO roles, what's the one thing that's sustainability related that you're the most proud of?
I think the work in Kantar is interesting and I'm proud of because it started with a colleague in Kantar who had an idea for a practice. This is a £3.3 billion business and here we're little us starting something. It's now recognized by the CEO of the whole company, the private equity company, by the investors as the third most important growth engine of the company. So I think that just from shifting commitment on a huge level to the importance of a practice is very, very important. So I think that's point one. But let's go back to the Body Shop, something more tangible. The thing that I was hoping to be most proud of. So I'm not really answering the question to the level that I'd like to, because there is something that I've really wanted to have happen. It's happened with this company, Flora, so that's why I refer to them, which is that I wanted to replace all the 80 million plastic pots of body butter with a pot made from the banana leaves that are normally burnt in Brazil when sugarcane is created. And an entrepreneur in Brazil had created a packaging, a new format out of these banana leaves. And I wanted to change all the packaging to that. Unfortunately, I left the company before it could be completed. But I also had a profound learning. And we learn from failures as much as successes. So let me tell you quickly the learning. The learning is that we kill sustainable initiatives because we perceive that the input costs at the beginning are going to be uncompetitive. And the mistake we made is to not look at the full, what companies make is to not look at the full P&L to see where you can move around components to fund the sustainable content. Let me give you the concrete example. Most businesses will use promotions and discount, whether it's services or whatever, to attract customers. They can actually spend a huge amount on that. A small decrease in the promotional budget can easily fund quite often the sustainable cost increase.
And you did that in one of your cases.
Well,
right?
I have, and that's why I'm mentioning, and that's why the P&L of you have to look at the full P&L, and you have to work out how you can manipulate, if we say the P&L, to make the sustainable initiative come to market. But more and crucially than anything, if I may share an insight. So the number one barrier we see from the research at Kantar for people buying sustainable products, so 60% of people worldwide want to, 25% actually do. Why is there such a big gap? And they tell us the number one reason is they perceive sustainable solutions are more expensive than the alternative. We run the numbers, we find that they're on the whole 70% more expensive than the alternative. Well, we've got to start with a new mental model, which is that we have to price match a sustainable initiative with an existing priced product. Every business leader I speak to perceives that they can use sustainability to charge a premium. They think it's a reason to charge a premium. And then the products don't work. And they say, well, gosh, you see, it just goes to show people don't want it. No. You've been set up to fail through a pricing strategy.
Right. And why should the consumer pay a premium?
Exactly.
Because the consumer is already reeling under the impact of massive inflation all over the world.
Yeah.
I mean, the average household is finding it difficult to make ends meet anyway. And it's surprising to me that the huge mega companies say, oh, we can't do anything because the consumer won't pay a little extra. I mean, you have to innovate.
Exactly.
To your point, to price match.
Exactly.
And make it even cheaper for that matter.
Exactly. Now, I can hear all the voices already shouting at their iPhones or wherever they're listening to this and saying, oh, but this is ridiculous. Look at the cost. Let's try and bring two thoughts, if I may. The first one is the starting mental model. If you start by saying, I'm going to start by charging a premium, you already got the wrong mental model.
You lost the battle before it started.
So start by saying, how do I price match?
Exactly.
Second thing is, have I got some claims that people will pay a premium or will pay for? And we know that we got testing research we can use to say what's the price elasticity of our idea. So now I'm bringing in a testing methodology, price elasticity. If you find, like with Tesla on launch, your product is so differentiated, so unique, so incredible, so appealing that you can charge a premium, well, then you've got facts to support you.
Exactly.
But if you have, which will happen in multiple issues, the benefits are marginal, if not just neutral, because you're exchanging perhaps plastic for cardboard, then don't start with a premium and start competitively. Now, the final voice will be shouting down the phone saying, yes, but the costs have increased. Next learning, which is that there is an industrial law, rights law, which tells us that every single thing that's ever been made reduces in price by 20% every time it doubles in volume. This is solar panels, for example, and now more
dropping like anything.
You pick on anything, it's done that model. So if you start with that model, you can then say, right, what's the speed with which the volume of this will double and with our prices will come down and we can be competitive.
That's wonderful. So I want to dive into that a little bit. Now, I think your time at Coke, right? You invented Coke Zero. Now, that was a big innovation of the time. Same great taste, 0 calories. I happened to be at Coke for a short while at that time, so I remember that. Great innovation at that time. So when we address environmental and social sustainability, right, we need innovation. We need innovation of the highest order to your point, match price or even make things cheaper and greener and more socially acceptable, right? So what's the secret of innovation, of getting innovation right? Because without innovation, we will not defeat climate change. Without innovation, we will not defeat inequality and other social problems. Now, you, with your experience at Coke, with your experience at Pandora, with L'Oreal, what's the secret behind getting innovation right?
Yeah, I think there's two elements. The first one in existing companies is to realize you must parallel process your innovation for your standalone business, your existing business, and parallel process an innovation plan and stream for your sustainability. Why am I saying this? Because if you mix and muddle your core business innovation with your sustainability, probably the sustainability will get kicked out or get kicked down the line or fall by the wayside, probably because it needs a bit more structural thinking and effort and investment of time. You may be inventing a new industrial process. So it's parallel process to give it a chance. The second thing is to realize that it may take a little longer, but I tell you, time goes so quickly when you're in business. So let's say, I'm going to take this floor example because it does interest me. It's taken them 4 years. Now, 4 years ago, they might have said, this is in the future. My God, we can't do it. But that time has gone like a flash. It's the same CEO, and now they've got a huge competitive advantage. They've got something to shout about because they've stuck at it for 4 years and overcome the problems. So parallel process and give it the time, not too long, but the time to realize you will create something amazing at the end if you commit to it. Those will be two elements to start answering your question. There's so much more I can say, but I will give you those to kick off.
So coming back to Body Shop, clearly, it's not going through the best of times right now, and I don't want to dwell on it too much, but generally speaking, and then there are businesses that last hundreds of years and are profitable throughout it all. What's the secret to longevity?
I think I see three things. First of all, is to have that entrepreneurial, innovative spirit, however big you are. How come Microsoft is now back again, to me, the most valuable company in the world? Because it has over time, but very particularly now with ChatGPT and everything, they spotted quicker than Google, who, by the way, bought DeepMind in 2014 and have fallen beside the wayside on this game. Have focused continually on innovation.
So that entrepreneurial spirit is back in the company big time.
Absolutely. And I like the word entrepreneurial spirit. And I think when I speak to companies, they love it too, because a lot of corporations don't feel entrepreneurial. They feel swamped by slow decision making. Yeah. And if we can bring that entrepreneurial spirit into a company, which I call entrepreneur spirit,
that's one.
Second one is to have a purpose, let's call it that. I love the word purpose, but the purpose is, what did the original entrepreneurial founder set out to do? Because probably those thoughts are still valid. Capture what it is, and then you've got to bring that purpose into multiple meetings. So let's say it's to explore the heavens, which I love from NASA. You've got to sit in a meeting and say, right, we're just about to discuss, HR policy. By the way, since our purpose is to explore the heavens, are we exploring every talent opportunity we could? No, we're not. Okay, let's use that word explore and find out how. So use the purpose as a call to action in regular meetings to check you're moving forward, but true to what you stand for, but nonetheless moving forward. Those would be two things. And then the last one, the one I love, you've got to speak to your customer. If you're not speaking to your customer and consumer all the time and assuming you know what they think, you will be left behind because they're moving quicker than you can imagine. And every time I've just walked out of a company meeting now, what did their team all say, all the leadership team? Gosh, we need to speak to our customer and bring them solutions.
Yeah, taking your eye away from entrepreneurial spirit, taking your eye away from innovation, and taking your ear out of customers' hearing range.
Perfect.
Is perfect recipe.
You summarized
for
it
disaster,
better
right?
than I could.
Yeah, very good, very good. Okay, so final question. You've run businesses. Now you're running the sustainability practice at Kantar. You're also running your own consulting practice on sustainable leadership. For those who have the right intention to do well by doing good in business, but are struggling for all kinds of reasons, final piece of advice.
The best way to win an argument internally is to bring a compelling, simple, one-page business case. If you can show the numbers, show the profit, there is no businessman or woman, no leader who won't listen if you can show the numbers. So bring the numbers. And those can be consumer numbers, but those, if they're economic numbers, they will listen. And I think one of the things is there are numbers of people in business who are not articulate enough in the economic story so that they grab attention. By the way, it's not easy. I've been in a number of board meetings where the CEOs have pushed the can of sustainability down the agenda of board meetings so that it would fall off the end. And therefore, the other thing is to demand that it's up the agenda physically and emotionally and mentally, and that attention is paid to it.
So when you say have a one-pager with numbers and economic numbers, what you're trying to say, if I heard you correctly, is if sustainability is a side dish and treated as a cost or a compliance problem, you've got a problem. But if you can show a business strategy with economic numbers saying, we're going to do this, this is a sustainability-led strategy and it's going to make money in the following way, why would anybody object?
Totally.
The problem is that we, instead of showing sustainability as a strategy, as a way to your words, gain competitive advantage and make money, we treat it as a cost or compliance problem, and that's when it sort of falls off the wayside or fails, right?
Because, and also because this compliance and regulation is all consuming and so consuming, even perhaps the mind space and the head space of those in charge is complete. And they've got to segment some minds. I need to put 25% of my brain to how do I take what we have and find it as a source of advantage and present that to the business with economics. If 100% of the brain is on compliance, they won't win this battle because it will be seen as a cost, as it is, and a hugely time-consuming compliant issue.
Wonderful. Well, it's been a pleasure, as always, talking to you, Jeremy. Thanks for coming to the show, and thanks for sharing your wisdom with our listeners and our viewers. And good luck to you in the years ahead.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.